Hello and welcome to my channel. Here I review new movies and television shows and try to release a new review every day from Monday to Friday. Today's movie is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. It's an animated comedy, action-adventure movie that follows Puss in Boots as he learns to face his fears, appreciates the people around him, and faces the opponent of a lifetime. It was co-directed by Joel Crawford and Juanel Mercado. The screenplay was written by Paul Fisher, and the story was written by Tommy Swerdlow and Tommy Wheeler. The movie begins with Puss in Boots, played by Antonio Banderas, high on life. He's throwing a party at the home of a corrupt mayor and opens the movie with a song about his bravery. The song wakes a sleeping giant, and Boots battles him to rescue the villagers while never missing a beat. After defeating the giant, Boots stays to give an encore to the crowd and is crushed by a bell. Being his 8th death, Boots finds himself fearing death for the first time. He runs away from his life and spends a while in hiding. Then a new opportunity comes knocking in the form of 3 little bears and a girl looking for a cat thief. There's a magical wish-granting star and a map that shows you the way. Armed with this new knowledge, Boots sets out with a canine companion, played by Harvey Guillen, to steal the map and wish for his 9 lives back. On the way, he meets an old feline friend, played by Salma Hayek, competes against a family of bears, and fights with a mysterious wolf, played by Wagner Moura. There's a lot to love about this movie, but for me, the go-to thing to talk about is the animation. The style is detailed, yet still cartoonish. It gets across emotions well, and still works wonderfully for gag humor. Like when Jack Horner is accidentally killing his own minions with exploding unicorn horns, and they all explode into confetti. The fight scenes look gorgeous, and there are lots of them. They're high energy and fluid with almost no cutting. The action is easy to follow, and creative in how they approach the different fights. Against the giant, Boots looks like a character out of Attack on Titan, jumping and dodging at high speeds while giant creature smashes through buildings around him. Later, when he's fighting against the wolf, it's a sword duel with the energy of a Jedi fighting a Sith. Boots twirls around like Yoda, spinning his blade and striking precisely. It's a lot of fun to watch. There are also a lot of references and gags baked into the background of each scene for you to pick out and enjoy. Like everything in Jack's office are all the famous items he stuffs into and pulls out of his bag. That thing was a treasure trove of visual comedy. Does all that and yet still manages to make Boots and the rest of the cast feel genuinely human in the way they move and interact with the world. I especially liked Boots' fear reaction, and the shot near the end with Boots, Kitty, and Perito sitting together. It was quite touching. So not only does this movie look good, but the writing is solid as well. The story has a little bit of everything in it, and there's a lot of excitement throughout the film. There are jokes of all kinds, a couple of meaningful messages, action, music, and an interesting character art for Boots. There's even a horror element with the wolf that follows him. The tune he whistles is eerie, and had chills running down my spine every time I heard it. Boots starts off the story as the arrogant and selfish cat that we have come to know and love. A lone braggart who laughs in the face of death. But then we see him humbled. We see him reach into the depths of despair, and we see him pull himself out of it, and decide to fight for something meaningful. Along the way, he learns to appreciate the people around him, and cherish the life he has. While Boots is a good hero, he's supported by a cast of interesting and fun characters. There's Kitty, his old flame, who's basically the female version of Boots, a goofy and lovable puppy named Burrito, and the 3 bears and Goldilocks. Each of them has a role to play in teaching Boots a lesson about his selfish ways, and each of them becomes a fully fleshed out character by the end. Jack Horner is a little one-dimensional, but the film sacrifices his character to make some hilarious jokes out of how cartoonishly evil he is. He's got Jiminy Cricket with him, and the poor bug can't find a way through that thick skull. I laughed a lot at Cricket's outrage. The dialogue has a lot of funny jokes in it, some clever one-liners, some cringe puns, and a lot of quotable moments. The only real problem I have with the story is with Goldilocks' storyline and how it played out. Her wish seemed quite drastic, and somewhat out of character. There was a far simpler wish that would have made just as much sense and still allowed the story to play out exactly as it did. I think the writers chose the path they did to make a point, but I was a little disappointed when her wish was revealed. Not only is the soundtrack for this movie great, but it has 2 songs that it works into the story itself, and both of them are fantastic storytelling devices. The soundtrack has a Spanish sound to it and features a ton of original music. The tracks are well used, well timed, and are used sparingly, which makes them feel more impactful. The movie mostly uses these tracks to hype up action sequences and in short bursts throughout the film to accentuate a big moment. The movie opens with an original music number performed by Antonio Banderas himself, and then uses the song again as a symbol of Boots' former life. There's also a tune whistled by the wolf every time he's approaching that is wonderfully spooky and sends Boots into a panic each time. The voice acting is high quality across the board. The majority of the dialogue goes to Antonio Banderas, with Harvey Guillen and Salma Hayek following up behind him. Antonio Banderas is great at making Boots feel like an animated version of Zorro. He brings charm and bravado while also adding a lot of genuine emotion underneath. He's a master of conveying that emotion through his voice and even sings his own songs. This was a wonderful performance from him. Salma Hayek plays Kitty Softpaws, the old flame of Puss in Boots, and a thief. She's fiery, yet compassionate, and her comedic timing is perfect. The role doesn't challenge her as much as it could have, but she's great with everything she got. Harvey Guillen sounds like a sweet, innocent child, and that innocence works well for Perrito. He plays a stray puppy disguising himself as a cat so he can get free food from the crazy cat lady. His story is tragic, and the way Guillen tells it like a joke he can't help laughing at was a little heartbreaking. He did a good job. The rest of the cast features a lot of celebrity voices: Olivia Colman, Ray Winston, Florence Pugh, Wagner Moura, and John Mulaney. I liked most of them and thought they all did a decent job. The only person I thought was slightly out of place was Mulaney. He constantly comes across like a stand-up comic trying to tell jokes, and even though I laughed at some of them, Jack Horner wasn't really trying to be funny, he just was. My favorite voice was Kevin McCann, as not Jiminy Cricket. I was dying of laughter watching him pull his hair out trying to be Jack's conscience. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish may be kid-friendly, but it's also an incredibly well-made movie, and it's worth watching for just about anyone. The animation is top-notch, the action is awesome, the music is catchy and vibrant, the acting is powerful, and the story is exciting and leaves you with a lot of good lessons. 9 out of 10.